Good afternoon. What is a mild but overcast day? It is Monday the 13th of June. I have a nice hot cup of tea. And a parcel to unbox. There we go. Comes out nice and easy. And it is Noir World. Noir World, film noir powered by the apocalypse, which means it uses the same mechanics we first saw with Apocalypse World and powers things like Root and the Night Witches. Film noir powered by the apocalypse. Noir World is a tabletop role-playing game of emotion, tragedy, risk, and relationships. Film noir is all about telling stories about the characters who don't neatly fit into the binary of good and evil, live with the terrible consequences of their emotionally fueled choices. There are stories you can tell. These are the stories you can tell together with your friends. Are you ready to roll the dice? So this is a role-playing game based upon the genre of film noir. Essentially, the films of the 30s, 40s, and 50s that were really at the time B-movie thrillers that that came to be classified as a movement as film noir by French critics later on. So, typified by films such as The Maltese Falcon, The Big Sleep, anything based on the writings of Raymond Chandler, DOA, Third Man, that sort of thing. So we get into it, introduction. And here it describes Noir World as a world of blacks, whites and greys, of shadows and light pouring in through the Venetian blinds, of twists and turns, and betrayals and tangled relationships, of crime, danger, drama, cigarette smoke, lonely nights, people you might not trust, people you think love you, and all the stuff of old movies. So what you need to know, a nice upfront section here. We see Noir World is a collaborative storytelling game. It's a game where the win comes from everyone at the table having a good time working together to tell the best movie. While over the course of the play it may reveal that your character has certain motivations or agendas, this isn't a game of winners and losers as much as a game of basically creating an entertaining movie. So there is no designated person in charge. Everyone takes turn being the director. And of course, if they don't want to be director, they can pass it on to someone else. So essentially everyone has a role and then takes turn being the director. So think of this almost like a role-playing game where you have, we're all second unit directors as well as the members of the cast. Noir World requires cooperation and consent, which is important obviously because if you deal with Noir World, which can be quite emotionally taut and fraught and involve danger and so on, and blackmail and so on, not everyone's comfortable with that. But necessarily when you're telling a tale, it's all risky and persistent and tragic, and everything you say and do has consequences. So you've also got the three rules of Noir World. Be ready, willing and able to tell the best movie possible, even if it means it's not about your success. Look for opportunities to share the spotlight or help each other others to tell their stories. And if everyone agrees to something happening, it happens. So there's that degree of consent around the table. And also, I like this thing about looking for opportunities to share the spotlight or help others tell their stories. Because it's a bit like going to a convention game and you're sitting down, you play a little around the table and you don't necessarily know each other, but you're going to be on your best role-playing behaviour. When you're going to give your best role-playing performance when it's your turn in the spotlight. But when it's not, you sit back and let someone else have their turn. And you enable them to have their time as well. So, got an explanation of the rules, which are very nice and simple. You're rolling two six-sided dice and aiming to get 10 or more to succeed. If you roll 7 or to 9, then you succeed, but with a complication, and then 6 or less is some kind of failure. You might succeed with a failure or a complication, and what you're playing is either a mover or a shaker. So that you've got 20 core roles in the game, divided between movers and shakers. So the shakers are the most proactive roles, prone to causing problems, committing crimes. The shakers are the reactive roles who follow the story and complicate the movie. So we have the movers, we've got the good cop and the bad cop. Just summarising them there. The Fatal, the Mook, what have we got there? The War Vet, the Private Eye, and so on. Politician, career criminal, gambler and reporter, all classic film noir roles. And then the shakers, you've got them listed there as well. So these are all available to play, but they're not quite as proactive necessarily as pushing the story forward. They're reactive in the main. But you can see the inspiration here for some of them. So again, that's awfully like the actor Edward G. Robinson. And then we've got the last two, the ex-con and the girl or boy Friday. Really, playing the game, you define an era, and that can be anywhere from the 1770s all the way up to the 2040s. But the classic period is really the 30s, 40s, the 40s being the default, and the 50s. And then you select your roles, choose the crime, and then decide who's going to be the first person to be the director. So you've got the guidance here to setting up the game. And then defining the era. So we've got a quick definition of the eras there. So all the way back to the 1770s and all the way forward to the 2040s. Then we get into, it's essentially, also has notes here, like there's a section of film history, which covers essentially the majority of the film noir occurs in the 40s and 50s, with the development of film techniques thanks to expatriated German cinematographers and the evolution of the Hollywood studio system. So that's a nice point, but it does say that history can be flexible as well. So when we begin defining the rules, so everyone's got motivations and belongings and motives and so on, and role actions. So let's go all covering those. And you're defining your locations, because obviously the thing is, you can you can take the city of your choice. So obviously the big ones for the genre are going to be San Francisco or Los Angeles, but you could also do New York or Chicago and so on, or just define it as any city in which the noir story happens. And we've got choosing the crime. So you can roll for it or pick, and you've got a set of tables there for determining the type of crime that's happened and what it builds to. And then you playing it is covering the three-act structure of the classic three-act structure of the movie. So you've got an introduction, and Act 1 is establishing the movie, Act 2 is amplifying the movie, and then Act 3 is resolving the movie before we have the closing montage at the end of there. And that set everything up, and I get a bit more detail on the city, playing scenes, and then the basic actions. So you've got check it out, fight it out, talk it out. And what's really quite neat here is you've got the explanation of the rules here. So there we go. That's fight it out. You've got all the what happens when you get particular dice rolls. But down below you've got this example of play as well. So it's doing two things there. It's doing a show and tell. So in the top section you have the tell, and in the bottom right section you've got the show. So you've got a tell and show. That's a nice touch, and let's make it nice and obvious. Injury and healing is also covered, even going dark, knocking someone out and dying and bringing in a new role just because a new member of the cast, and so on. And then troubleshooting before we get into directing, and here here's the guidance for the director from turn to turn. So keep it claustrophobic, always bring on the pain, because in noir stories all of the cast suffer in some way. Get past the winks, always okay to lose, and draw out the suffering. So it can be a wrought and fraught playing experience, so we have to be careful there, to get through to really what the genre is about. So more advice for the director. So this is, I think possibly one issue with learning to play this game is that when you come to playing Noir World, you really got to think about learning to do two things: learning how to be a player and have a role, and as you would in any other role-playing game, but then how to be a director. And initially, that means there's quite a lot of buy-in for this, because you've got two roles to take on. So offering choices, giving them enough rope, and so on. So it's fairly sort of like, open-looking book. Quite a lot of text, but I think it should be a fairly easy read just from the overview. And the director has its own actions, so you've got a list of them there. Before, I think they're probably there's an explanation of all of these in here. Before we get into the movers. So this is for the different roles for the movers. So let's have a look at go for the good cop, of course. And everyone's got names, motivations, secrets and goals, and then we have belongings and hooks there. And you're making choices from all of these when you create a character, when you create your role. And then the good cop has particular actions beyond the basic actions that everyone has. So we've got do the right thing, you know these streets, and not a light in the dark, and shiny badge. Whereas if you have a look at the dirty cop, you have shakedown, bully with a badge, takes one to no one, and friends in sleazy places. And the fatale, for example, has why don't we sleep on it, do what you have to, never a damsel in distress, come up and see me. So a good chunk, I would imagine, like any Powered by the Apocalypse, a good chunk of the book is devoted to these roles and what they can do. So that's just the movers there, and then we get into the shakers, and that's all those there. So there's quite a lot devoted to the characters themselves before we get into like the support. We've got like a featurette mini setting and a story. So that's a narwhal. So let's just see, 6 fishermen, 6 narwhal, 1 leaky boat, and 3 days and nights to get home before the ship sinks. It takes place in an era between the 1940s and the 1990s. So that's a shipboard. Noir, and then we have you've got different, like you've got extra roles in here. So, for example, let's have a look. The salt, the old sea salt. He has got me sea legs, rough and ready, little brown eel. Smile, you son of a bitch. So obvious inspiration for those, but yeah, it really kind of works. And then the prom. So what you need to know: 6 teenagers, loads of emotion, a little alcohol, and a few reduced boundaries in inhibitions, and that's one. Essentially, it's a neo-noir with a prom night, the last night of graduation, that sort of thing, and that has its own roles. So just flipping further forward, we have retro heroes and villain. As the third featurette, and that is essentially, that's a classic kind of city, and the retro heroes and villains presented here are noir adaptations of classic common and radio serial heroes given a tint through a noir filter. So we have the Amazon, the Hornet. What's we got? The Ranger. So these are classic pulp heroes from various genres brought into the game. The Chaos, so on. The Phantom. So you sort of like you get into the masked heroes with this one. Oh, of course, the Shadow. Let's just check. Let's just see what he gets. He gets what evil lurks in the hearts of people. The Shadow knows ominous laughter as his actions. That's great. And then we have Star Noir, and that's another featurette. So you've got several featurettes in here. And Star Noir always takes place in a place long, long ago. And it's much broader in its take upon the genre. And then we get to the appendices. So, and that's all got in the options in there for Cthulhu Noir. And background of those damned occultists. With advice on putting tentacles to it. And we have source material. So basically, you've got a list of options there. Basically, further reading, further watching. So that covers books and television. Whether that's the Mike Hammer series by Mickey Spillane, or Rex Stout's Nero Wolves series. And then television is Endeavour, Inspector Morse, Justified, Murder, She Wrote, X-Files and so on. Movies, Arsenic and Old Lace, Chinatown, DOA, Blood Simple and so on. So lots of good choices there for reading and watching. And then we have a breakdown of particular movies. So The Third Man, so post-World War II Vienna. And then it does the same for the absolute classic Maltese Falcon as well. So what you've got in here, in each of this, essentially it takes each of the characters and the actors. So actor Humphrey Bogart plays Sam Spade, he's a private eye. Mary Astor, Ruth Wanderley, aka Bridget O'Shaughnessy, is the Fatal. Peter Lorre, Joel Caro is the Mook, and Sidney Greenstreet or Casper Gutman is the gangster. And this goes through scene by scene. And then we've got a list of city locations. This is basically this much toolbox. And some final words. So yeah, that's everything you need to know about Noir World. So, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing and look. If you have, please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where I will be out here with a parcel and a book which I will, or game which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.